We often hear the phrase, be the change you wish to see in the world, because it's supposed to be inspiring and motivating, yet even though we might want to make a difference, sometimes we don't know how. It can feel overwhelming, daunting, and we can be paralyzed by the idea that our actions are kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. That quote is typically attributed to Gandhi, but through a bit of research, I discovered that those weren't his exact words. He actually said a lot more. But the origin doesn't matter. It's really about the essence, be the change, because it encourages us to act within the only thing that we can control, ourselves. I invite you to think about something someone said or did recently that made your life a little easier or a little better. And now, think about something that you said or did recently to help make someone else's life a little easier or better. Raise your hand if something came to mind. Great. And think about that moment. How did it make you feel? A small comment or a small action can change the trajectory of a person's day. Maybe it would change the trajectory of their life. But let's get back to Gandhi. What did he say? We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a person changes their own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards them. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. I love that last line. We need not wait to see what others do. Because how many times do we kind of wait around for someone else to make the first move or wait for the perfect timing? Like, we often limit ourselves by thinking, maybe when I'm older, maybe when I have more time, or maybe I have more money. But really, why wait? Every day, we have the opportunity to be change makers if we consider the value and power of making small changes. Over time, small changes have a cumulative effect, and the impact can be powerful. I often think about the famous tale of the star thrower. It's about the young girl that was walking along the beach after a large storm, and there were thousands of starfish on that beach. They washed up, and when she came up to each starfish, she would pick it up and toss it into the ocean. And she'd been doing this for quite some time when somebody approached her and said, "Hey, why are you doing that? Look at this beach. You can't possibly save all of these starfish. You can't even begin to make a difference." So the girl thought about it. And after a few moments, she picked up another starfish and hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. And then she looked up and said, "Well, I just made a difference for that one." The person thought about what she had said and then joined that girl in throwing starfish back into the ocean. And soon others joined in, and all the starfish were saved. I would like to share my own starfish story with you. It is based on the life of a work of a friend of mine who's been an incredible source of inspiration to me and many others. Sister Maria Rosa Legol, who dedicated her life to the children of Honduras. She actually died 4 years ago this month, but she is credited with helping approximately 60,000 children during her 94 years. Honduras is the second poorest country in the Americas, and Sister Maria Rosa's driving, lifelong mission was to help children break the cycle of poverty and to empower them to live a life of dignity. When she was only 6 years old, she decided that she would become a nun and work with orphaned children. She entered the sisterhood at age 14, trained as a nurse, and did work with orphan children. Eventually, she went on to found her own organization, Sociedad Amigos de los Niños. One of her most famous mantras was, "There's always room for one more." Even when she was told the budget was tight, she had faith that God would provide and they could find room for one more child, one more starfish. I met Sister in 2003 when I took a leave from teaching here at LCS and spent 4 months volunteering with Sociedad Amigos de los Niños. I sought this opportunity through a partner organization in Peterborough called Friends of Honduran Children. When I arrived, I was overwhelmed by the level of poverty that surrounded me, and I was shocked by the living conditions that people had to endure. I was angry when I met people who were suffering from medical conditions that we consider to be easily treatable in Canada. Most of all, I was distraught by the number of young people I met who couldn't go to school because their families couldn't afford it. What I found most heartbreaking was that these kids loved to learn and wanted to learn. And like all of you, they had hopes and dreams for their futures that were virtually impossible without education. During my time there, my mom came to visit, and I introduced her to my 14-year-old friend, Omar. His father had abandoned the family, leaving his mom to raise him and his 7 brothers all by herself. Omar was a bright, charismatic, and driven young man who just finished grade 9. He gave my mom a tour of his school, and as he spoke, his love of learning and passion for the place were infectious. And when she asked him about starting grade 10, his excitement kind of drained away, and he said, "Oh, no, I won't be returning to school." And my mom and I were incredulous. But you love school." "Well," he said matter-of-factly, "it's my brother's turn to go to high school. I have to leave school so that I can work to support my brother." As he explained the situation in greater detail, we learned that full government funding for public education in Honduras ends in grade 6. After that, people pay out of pocket and the costs go up incrementally each year. Well, as privileged and naive Canadians, we had assumed that school was free everywhere. His reality was really hard to comprehend. The cost of a year of high school was approximately $350, covering registration fees, materials, books, uniform, transportation, which might not seem like an exorbitant amount of money in Canadian terms, but given that the average monthly wage in that rural region was about $350, you can do the math and realize why the cost was prohibitive for most families. How could a family possibly put a roof over their head and food on the table and pay for an education for 1 or more children? A high school education was simply a luxury, and it still is. Later that night, my mom said, "That boy just has to go to school. Could I pay for his fees so that he could go on and earn a high school diploma?" So she did just that, and Omar graduated from high school. When I returned home to Peterborough in the spring of 2004, I couldn't stop thinking about the many Honduran kids like Omar who had dreams and a desire to learn. It motivated me to launch the Friends of Honduran Children Education Committee. And our first priority was to initiate a scholarship fund. In 2005, we were able to provide 1 scholarship for 1 student. Just a small action. But bit by bit, with more fundraising, we increased the number of scholarships, and at last count, we have just supported over 200 students' education. Anyone at LCS who's been with me in our grade 10 leadership, character, and values program knows that I talk a lot about the concept of a ripple effect. But that's because I deeply believe in this, and I know it's true. The cool thing about Omar's story is how that ripple effect continued. Fast forward a few years when a donor from Peterborough paid for his university tuition, and he graduated with a degree in English and education. Omar's vision was to start a bilingual school to teach English to children from rural villages. And later this month, he will celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Big Dreamer School. When the scholarship program and then Big Dreamer School were launched, I imagined the future possibilities and the changes that young recipients might make with their education. And now we have evidence of the impact and the ripple effect. There's the scholarship recipient who went on to study psychology and is passionate about Hondurans' mental health. There's the teacher who's now teaching computer skills. There's the nurse who's taking care of well-being in her village. The civil engineer who's now doing her master's in water systems. And the young entrepreneur who has started a business that employs local people. Those scholarships have done more than provide money. They have transformed lives. They have improved communities. Thinking back to my opening quote, change really does start with each one of us. Just like Sister Maria Rosa, who believed there was always room for one more, we too can open our hearts and our minds to the power of small actions. Every little effort we make has the potential to create ripples that extend far beyond our initial reach. But we can't wait for others to lead the way, nor can we wait for the perfect time to act. Instead, let's commit to being the change, no matter how small it may seem. Remember, it's not about saving every starfish. It's about making a difference for the one right in front of us. So as you leave here today, I urge you to reflect on what small change you can embody in your life. Let's step into our power as change makers and inspire others to do the same. Together, we can create a path of hope. And remember, the world mirrors our actions, and change begins with us. Thank you.